Nobody in that room was talking. Not the promoters, not the reporters, not the 200 people packed into a backroom gym in Santa Monica in the winter of 1969, all of them staring at one wooden table like it owed them money. Legend says the silence broke only when Big Tom Kovacs, the reigning world arm wrestling champion, a 290-pound wall of a man who had never lost a match in 11 years, leaned across that table and told Chuck Norris he was about to learn what real strength felt like. Nobody filmed what happened that night, but everyone who was in that gym tells the story the same way. Before it was over, a table had snapped clean in half, and the man who owned that table's undefeated reputation never arm wrestled in public again. Here's what nobody in that room understood yet. The story wasn't about muscle. It never was. And it wasn't even going to be decided the first time these two men sat down. By 1969, Kovacs wasn't just a champion, he was an institution. 10 years on the Carnival and County Fair circuit, then 11 straight years holding the unofficial World Arm Wrestling title that traveled with him from bar to bar, arena to arena, wherever a promoter could scrape together a purse. He'd broken 3 men's wrists. He'd cracked a table in Reno so badly, the owner banned arm wrestling from the building for good. His forearm alone was said to measure bigger than most men's thighs, and he wore that reputation like armor. Loud, boastful, allergic to doubt. Chuck Norris, by contrast, was quiet. He'd already built a name in karate circles, 6-time world champion, a man whose calm was more unsettling than any shout. He wasn't there to prove anything to Kovacs. He was there because a mutual friend, a promoter who loved chaos more than money, had talked both men into a private exhibition match. Half joke, half dare. The kind of bet that starts in a bar and somehow ends up real. Kovacs took one look at Norris's frame. Lean, compact, nothing like the bodybuilders and truck drivers he usually flattened, and laughed. Here's the thing about a man who's never lost. He stops preparing for the possibility. Kovacs didn't train for this match. He didn't need to. He'd flatten bigger men without breaking a sweat, and Norris, to his eye, was just another curiosity to be dealt with in seconds. The room disagreed with his confidence more than it agreed with it. Word had spread fast. A karate champion against the strongest arm in the country, and by the time the two men sat down, the gym was standing room only. Folding chairs stacked 3 deep against the walls, cigarette smoke curling under a single hanging light. Ask yourself this: what do you do when the whole room expects you to lose in 4 seconds? The table itself became part of the legend before a hand was even placed on it. It was solid oak, reinforced steel legs, built specifically to survive Kovacs, because ordinary furniture didn't. The promoter had commissioned it after the Reno incident, half as a joke, half out of genuine concern for insurance liability. Kovacs proof, they called it. Nobody in that gym believed anything could outmuscle that table. Kovacs settled into his chair like a man sitting down to a meal he'd already finished 1,000 times. He rolled his neck. He cracked his knuckles loud enough that people near the front actually flinched. Someone in the back shouted odds, 20-1 against Norris, and nobody in the room disagreed with the number. Norris didn't say much. He rolled up his sleeve, set his elbow on the table, and looked at Kovacs the way a man looks at weather he isn't worried about. That calm did something strange to the room. A few people who'd come to watch a joke started to feel, quietly, like they were about to watch something else. Here's what nobody understood yet. Kovacs had built a career on brute leverage, dragging opponents' arms down through sheer mass. Norris had built a career on something else entirely: timing, structural mechanics, the kind of full-body torque that martial artists spend decades refining, and that has nothing to do with how big your forearm looks. Strength that shows up on a bicep is not the same as strength that moves through the hips, the spine, the shoulder in one unbroken line. Kovacs had never faced anyone who understood that difference. He was about to. The referee, a boxing trainer named Eddie Marsh, borrowed for the night because nobody else would agree to officiate, locked their hands together, and called for the ready position. The room went dead quiet, the kind of quiet that presses on your ears. "Set," Eddie said. Kovacs's forearm bulged. People in the front row swore later they heard his knuckles pop just from the tension of waiting. Go! What happened in the next 4 seconds would be talked about in gyms up and down the coast for the next 40 years. Kovacs drove forward immediately. His signature move, the one that had ended over 100 matches before Norris ever sat down. It was designed to be instant, overwhelming, the kind of surge that didn't give an opponent time to think. Against every man before Norris, it had worked in under 2 seconds. Norris didn't move. Not backward, not at all. For 1 full second, nothing happened. The two locked hands stayed dead upright, trembling, neither man's wrist giving an inch. In the crowd, the silence cracked into gasps. Small ones, disbelieving ones. Kovacs' face changed first. The easy confidence in his eyes flickered into something the room had never seen from him before: doubt. Legend says Norris's counter didn't look like effort at all. No grimace, no roar, nothing. Just the shift, his shoulder dropping half an inch, his hips rotating a fraction. A small adjustment that turned Kovacs' own forward momentum back against him like a door slamming the wrong way. Kovacs' arm didn't bend slowly. It went down all at once, a full, violent reversal, his knuckles slamming toward the table with a force that had nowhere left to escape but through the wood itself. The crack that followed didn't sound like furniture breaking. People compared it later to a gunshot, to a tree splitting in a storm, to nothing they could properly describe at all. The Kovacs proof table, reinforced steel legs and all, split clean down the center seam, both halves lurching sideways as Kovacs' own arm drove through where the surface used to be. 3 seconds. That's all it took from go to the table hitting the floor in 2 pieces. Kovacs sat there for a moment, just staring at his own hand, like it belonged to someone else. The room didn't cheer. It didn't move. 200 people who'd walked in expecting a joke sat frozen, trying to process what they'd actually just watched. Eddie Marsh, the referee, never called an official winner. There was no table left to declare one on. He didn't need to. Kovacs stood up slowly, looked down at the wreckage, and said nothing at all. He shook Norris's hand, the same hand that had just ended his 11-year unbeaten streak, in front of the entire room, and walked out through the side door without waiting for anyone to ask him a question. Only a handful of reporters had bothered showing up that night, expecting nothing more than a novelty item for the local paper. Most of what happened never made it into print at all. No footage exists, no wire photo, nothing but the memory of the people who were actually there. Word still spread anyway, gym to gym, the way these things always do, growing a little in every retelling. Kovacs never arm wrestled in a public exhibition again. Some say he simply lost the appetite for it. Others say he couldn't stand the idea of ever being asked the same question twice. What happened at that table? Whether every detail of that night happened exactly as it's been told, nobody left alive can say for certain. That's how it goes with stories like this one. They outlive the men who tell them, changing shape a little with every gym, every generation, every retelling. What survives is the point underneath it, that size was never the whole story, that a calm man who understands leverage will beat a strong man who's only ever relied on mass every single time it matters. Chuck Norris didn't need to raise his voice that night. He didn't need to celebrate. He'd already proven what he came to prove the moment the table hit the floor. The story is still told in gyms today, not as history exactly, but as the kind of legend martial artists pass down, because it says something true even if the facts have softened at the edges. And maybe that's the only ending a story like this deserves. If you want more legends like this one, stick around. There are plenty more where the quiet man wins.